Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Ferndale City Council meeting for Monday, February 25th, 2013. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Council members Galloway, Martin.
Here.
Piana. Here. Lennon.
Here.
Mayor Coulter.
Here. Yes, thank you. We have a quorum this evening. Next item of business would be the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening? April.
I would like to add on the consent additional multi-space meters, which we'll talk about in my next presentation.
All right. We'll make that regular agenda item 7F. Any other changes to the agenda?
I move that we accept the agenda as amended.
I support.
Moved by Martin, supported by Piana. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Council members Martin.
Yes.
Piana. Lennon.
Yes.
Mayor Coulter.
Yes, thank you. The agenda is adopted. Councilman Galloway is away on vacation, lucky gent tonight, and would there be unanimous consent to excuse his absence?
Support.
All right. We'll consider Scott excused this evening. Moving on to our agenda is presentations. We have a number of presentations this evening. The first one is an update on the implementation of our multi-space parking meter system.
Push the button.
In the interest of all the good folks that are here, and I'm guessing some of you might want to talk about parking, I will do after we do this presentation, I'll do a call to audience specifically for parking in case that's what you're here for. That way, you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting if you don't want to, although you're certainly welcome to do so. So, April Lynch, would you update us on the parking, please?
Sure. As many of you know, the city implemented a free parking holiday since Thursday, February 21st, and it's still going on. The intent was for staff to evaluate the preliminary rollout of the Park Plus parking system and to take some time to analyze the data that was coming out of the machines. We felt at this point some preliminary findings that we needed to take the weekend to really figure out what was going on, especially with the cold weather. We didn't want people to stand in line while we were trying to figure out why the line management was as long as it was. We were able to really get a snapshot at that point of what was really happening with our system. So we took the dates of the last full week of the parking data that was out of the machines, which again is a huge component of where we are today with parking, is that these machines provide minute-to-minute data collection that can help us not only right now, but will help us in the future. So what we were able to do was take and look at the actual number of hourly transactions per machine, the average time per machine, identify areas of where it looked like the meters were being overused or underused, as well as taking a look at how does this compare to the original assumptions we made on the number of meters that we had. So as we looked at that data, it became very clear on Thursday, because we started this review on Thursday when we had free parking day on Thursday, that the analytics came back with a great explanation of how it is that the lines were so long, because that was never the intention for lines to be that long at our stations. So as we looked at the analyzing the data, right now our current parking system is comprised of 20 pay stations. Over this 7-day period that we took, our 20 pay stations handled over 15,000 transactions. 5 machines were located in Troy and Livingston lots, handled 50% of these transactions. So 7,000 transactions came out of those 2 parking lots alone. So that right there lets you know that clearly we have an issue with the amount of pay stations that we have in those 2 lots in particular. So actually, when I break it down, a quarter of our machines handled 50% of our traffic demand. So obviously, we were able to take a look at that and figure out where we go with the parking meters for those. The other interesting data that we had is out of those 15,000 transactions, 60% of them occurred between the peak hours on Thursday, February 13th through Saturday, February 15th, between the hours of 5 and 10. So each night, those days, 5 hours for each of those 3 days, so 15 hours, we had 9,300 of those transactions. So again, not only do we have a location that is high traffic, but there's also a high traffic time period as well, which again aided in us missing the mark in how many multi-space meters that we needed to handle those transactions. So when we looked at that, we sat down with the manufacturer and the consultants and found that the industry standard for hourly transactions per parking unit are 15 to 20 transactions per hour. And our busiest lots, which are Breckenridge, Withington, and Troy, and the library, were experiencing an average of 60 to 80 hours, or 60 to 80 transactions per hour during those peak times from 5 to 9. So with that,
wait, just to be clear about that, so the average is supposed to be 15 to 20 transactions an hour, and those were getting 60 to 80 transactions an hour.
And again, during peak times in those same locations.
Yep.
So at that point, we realized we had peak and hour parking demand in particular locations. It is also, I think, important to note that when we realized the data that we received is that the amount of theft that we were getting out of the original parking meters is on a much greater level than we ever really thought. So a couple times a year, probably 3 or 4 times a year, I think we'd get a massive, one parking lot would be emptied completely. But we think what was happening is that not only was that happening, but others were being removed as well. So with that, it is clear, I think we can tell even without this information, that we don't have enough multi-space machines. So, but it was interesting to have that data so that we could look at where do we need them. So what's the point of throwing in a few more machines if it's in a location that isn't going to help the situation? So what we've done is we have requested, you'll actually have in your consent agenda, actually in 2 separate agendas, because again, before we had time to analyze the data, we knew we needed more machines. We just didn't know how many and where we had them. So we're actually going to be adding another 12 to the system and another 2 more that we're bringing on for as we go through this process, because we actually, even during this time, we weren't really enforcing and people knew that. So even the data we have, you could probably increase that percentage by 10, 15% at minimum as it relates to what are those numbers truly. So with that our goal is to reduce the transactions back to the industry standard, which is 15 to 20 per hour. And by adding these additional meters, we feel that that will help greatly. What we will do is look at not only, though, how many that we need, but where we're locating them. Some things that we are hoping to do is looking at grouping machines that are closer in proximity. For instance, there's a particular spot, I think is it Withington, that we're looking at actually doing 3 in one location, because that's where a lot of the traffic, that's our most hit parking meter. So that will allow multiple people to go into clearly a point where people like to convert to. So we're going to try to address those as well. And try to double them up as much as possible for convenience as well as for safety, so people don't feel like they're standing there by themselves. And then also, as always, we're looking at the machines to try to lower the number of prompts that we can. I know some people are a little frustrated by the number of prompts, so we'll go through and remove any unnecessary prompts that we need to, as well as speed up approval time for credit cards. So that is where we are with the line management, and I'll talk about lighting too, but I didn't know if council had any questions as it relates to the actual machines and
Just
stuff.
real quick, April, the 11 additional and the locations you're putting them, is that based just on the analytical data or feedback from business owners, residents?
A little of both, but the data supports the complaints that we've been getting through social media reports back from business owners. When you were to look at the list of 20, there was nothing shocking from what we were hearing from residents. You could see by that data immediately within a few minutes that we knew that those machines had to be we have actually some are actually relocating and ordering, so there'll be significant amount of increase in number of parking meters in some locations.
Have we thought about placing these within close proximity of the handicap parking areas too?
Majority of them are as close to handicap parking as possible.
You mentioned part of the underestimation of transactions per hour was due to theft that we didn't know was going on in the existing meters. What security do these multi-space meters have that make them less susceptible to theft than the previous meters?
The current meters, or the previous meters that we had, there was a key that was somewhat pretty much standard throughout communities that had those meters, if I'm not mistaken, correct, Lloyd? These meters, the multi-space meters, have keys specialized for those particular meters. So the ability to take, do you have more on that?
I also wanted to mention that they do have.
Just use the mic, just so we can all hear you, Lloyd.
I just wanted to mention that you also have an alert system so that we can be notified if there's any kind of tampering that's going on. So that's significant improvement.
For those that didn't hear, not only are the keys specifically different for those meters, it has an alert system. So if anybody tries to get into the meter and tries to force anything out or push it over, there's an alert system that automatically goes off to let us know that there's a situation in that meter.
Dan, any other?
Not yet.
Melanie?
Well, I have some questions about, but that might be better for the consent agenda.
Okay.
Because they're specific about the contract itself.
Okay.
For the pay stations.
Sure.
Oh.
Sorry. I have questions about the contract itself. I mean.
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
be, we'll do that when we
So,
take up
sure.
the additional. But my question about the units is, if we order them, if we decide tonight to order them, how long will they take to arrive? How long will they take to install?
For sure. We are hoping that we will, in part of the contract, we put in there, because we're expediting them, that they have to be delivered and installed within 3 weeks. So we're hoping that 3 weeks from today, that they will all be in, if not sooner. But we had to put in some kind of, we wanted to make sure that they don't get stalled. So we actually put in the contract, they have to be here and installed within 3 weeks. One of the nice things about the meters as well is they're very mobile. We can move them wherever we need to. So if we put them all in these locations, and again, we only had 3 weeks of data. We only had it at a time where, we really weren't enforcing and we were figuring out what was going on. So as it goes back online live and we have everything where we think we do, we could find that we need to move a few in a different location again as peak times hit. So they're very, very mobile. And I think, did I just answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That leads me to another question, though. I'm sorry. How much extra expenditure does expediting the order cost us?
$500 a machine. They gave us a 5% discount for ordering more, so it kind of washed it out a little bit.
Well, I guess my question would be appropriate here is because I know we're basing our decisions off the new pay stations on data, and that's data we didn't really have when we came up with the estimates of how many pay stations we need. But I'm wondering if, the bid process, were we completely just, did they underbid so that we would get their business? Because, this is like almost a 50%
Sure.
increase in the number of pay stations, and so.
No, we did it based on industry standard, which was parking spots per meter. And we have an issue with peak time and peak location. And again, it's kind of like building a road for rush hour traffic. So there will be a lot of them that will sit there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday not being used, but on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 5 to 9, they'll all be utilized.
Designing like a big parking lot for a Walmart for
Yep.
Thanksgiving and Christmas?
Correct, unfortunately.
So the lack of data from the previous meters coupled with the theft
Yes,
didn't present accurate data of what we would, if we were actually at industry standard or not.
correct.
I do want to reinforce again, that's one of the reasons we went to the system is to actually make real data-driven decisions about our parking needs.
And we can too, I'm probably being a little over-conservative just because of the situation we've had with how many we're getting, but we also will be moving them to on-street eventually as well, so we're doing getting the capital now, so we can move them if we find that maybe as everybody gets used to it or the transactions start to have a standard, if you will, then we can move them as well. So they'll still be very usable for us.
Okay. And can you talk a little bit about the communications of the changes how the city's communicating these changes out into the to the public and to the business owners and
Yep.
keeping on top of
Why don't I go
housing?
ahead and talk about lighting really quick, because
Okay.
that was the other big thing, and then I'll move into
Okay.
more of the overall. So another complaint beyond the lines was the lack of lighting. And again, as we moved this project forward, we placed them all in a strategic location that was near a light pole. And it should have been adequate, but it's become very clear, in particular in some areas, that the residents and customers and visitors are not feeling that there's adequate lighting. So what we are doing right now is working with, actually, Lloyd, our DPW director, was able to reach out to DTE, who's been very engaged with us. A lot of the locations where the parking meters are near a light pole anyway, so they're going to help us help us with lighting in that capacity, so we can get lighting as soon as possible, as well as we are working on other solar-powered energy, if you will, for some of the other areas that are not near, as close to a light pole as being able to just put a mast over the parking station. So we are working on all of the lighting. I think one of the things that's important to note, too, is that all of our machines are solar-powered in an effort to be green and conservative and conserve our energy. And so when you come up to them, they're often dark because they're sleeping, because when there's no energy being used, the machines go to sleep quicker than if they were electric, and they would stay on all the time, if you will. So that also is, especially in those particular machines that were being used so much, it was draining the battery so much because of the use was so high. So that will help as well. It won't necessarily be part of the lighting part of it, but it will help with the dimming of the machine. So we're working through that as well, as I know we've had some concerns about lighting the keyboard and things of that nature, and we're working through all of that. So the one thing with the lighting is that's not as a quick of a fix right now as it seems as the ordering in the machines, except for in the particular areas where DTE can help us. So we're trying to wrap our head around what our options are and how quick that we can get, especially some of the locations that cause the most concern. We're also looking in some locations that are right near the power sources, the shelters, to provide, that might have 2 or 3 underneath them, to get those lit up as well, and those might be able to go right to direct power, which would help as well.
Next questions?
Dan.
So with DTE assisting us, you said lighting would be installed as soon as possible. What does that mean?
We're working with them right now on a timeline.
Is it
I
a
don't
week?
have-
Is it 2 weeks? Is
No
it-
idea. That's why,
Okay.
yeah, we're trying to figure that out. So we're hoping that one will be a little sooner, within the next 2 weeks.
In addition to the lighting, there seems to be an issue with the signage to show you where the stations are. What are we doing to address
Yeah,
that?
we are also working on a plan right now. We think we've had that figured out, of how you can actually see where to pay at night, where we can light up the pay here stations. And that we think we can get done in the next week or 2 as well.
Can you talk a little bit about the speed up approval time for credit cards? I know that you can program to reduce the amount of prompts that there are, but is there a software upgrade that is needed, or how are we going to reduce it seems like an upload or uptake time on credit card
Well,
approval?
when we originally started, there was a 60-minute wait, 60 minutes, I'm sure it seemed like it, a 60-second wait time from the time, up to, not always. It was just a time where the computer had the chance to read your card and get it into the system. And so it had up to 60 seconds before it would, we call it timeout, if you will, and capture the card. We actually found out that we can reduce that time, and we've cut that in half, so that we can lower that time. Of course, not all credit card transactions took that long, but it allowed it to do that. So even if you had 2 people ahead of you and it couldn't find the internet and it was searching, it would search for 60 seconds before it would time out and just take the card. So this will actually help lower those times.
Go ahead.
Park Mobile is up and running throughout the
It is.
entire city, and
Yes.
is there signage, I haven't checked, on
Yes.
each individual placard for what your
Yes.
parking space number is?
There is, yes.
Okay.
So I think, clearly, I think that there's a message here that we have some work to do. And at this point, with the things that we're working through, and I think that we can accomplish, I am recommending that our free parking be extended through March 11th, to give us time to be able to get those machines in, We can, on March 11th, if we're not done yet, we can talk about where we're at and what we need at that point. But for now, I think until March 11th, that we need to reevaluate where we are and how quickly we can get these changes made, because we don't want to make.
And March 11th being, what, 2 weeks from today,
Yeah.
the next council meeting? So you're recommending no
Free parking.
free parking for the next 2 weeks?
That include the on-street meters?
Yeah, we talked about that. I think it would just be too hard to enforce.
Well, it is, and it's unfair to anybody that parks in the...
So I think that with that, that will allow us the time that we need to actually really sit down and get some of these things fixed without people standing in line in freezing cold weather. I think it's not fair to the residents to make them do that, as we know that we need more of those machines, and we'll get that, everything addressed as soon as possible. I think that the other thing is that we want to take this time to, we heard a lot of feedback. You know, this is where, believe it or not, social media was really helpful. We were able to get a lot of feedback from our Facebook, from other people's Facebook, through, people were very open about their frustrations and their suggestions, and we really have looked and listened to every single comment, and we'll be taking that back as well and making sure the things I've touched on here are only the two major things. So we have a lot of little ones that deserve a look at as well, but I think with the fact of the waiting in line, and being cold and just not having enough machines made all of the other things seem just as frustrating, and they are, and inside of themselves, so we're taking a look at that. And as it relates to and taking that opportunity to communicate more with our businesses, residents, and visitors, how to use the machine, more about what we're doing with that parking system. So we're going to be, one of the things on our list is we're going to be creating a media plan and outreach plan on how we can capture some of that information for those that haven't been on Facebook or calling our office.
Can you share that with council, and we can provide our feedback
Yes.
on that plan before it's rolled out?
Yes, we will.
Comments about the free parking?
Huh?
Do you need a
Talk about the free
motion?
parking?
The communication.
Oh, right, but you were talking about extending the free parking. I have a couple questions about
Yes.
that.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So I'm all supportive of the free parking until we get this right, but it leads into my question. I know I brought this up before. If no one's using the system, how do we know when it's right?
Well, I think that the 3 weeks that we had, I think it was really 3 full weeks that we had, that data was so invaluable, and I know nobody is really thrilled about it now, but what we're going to be able to do with those machines later as we really address our parking needs is going to be phenomenal. I think just in that 3 weeks, the data that we had that will really help us understand where our visitors and our residents are parking and when they're parking. And I think that that's going to be the best data that we have. I think the parts of the machine, I think the usage of the machine, that's going to be where we're going to have to come in and help people use the machines, educate, help them understand how the machines work. And that is, we still haven't had a chance to really take a look at that. So, but we feel that first 3 weeks, though, really gave us insight to people's frustrations. It was dark. They felt like the keyboard wasn't working. There was a lot of prompts. And just basically, they like the old meters better. So there will be, once we start, when we feel that we have what we need to bring them back completely online, we're going to have probably another learning curve, but I'm hoping it will be some other things and not the big issues, which were the lines, the lighting, and just general frustration. So it's kind of a catch-22, but to know that we have this many machines, that we need more to keep people frustrated in this cold, we just need to kind of work through that.
No, I think it's the right thing to do. I just want to make sure when we turn it back on, it's...
Yep, we'll still be taking feedback, we'll still be reevaluating everything and taking concerns and suggestions.
I agree. I think we need to get it right. I think March 11th is fair. I wouldn't want to go much farther than that, because of the cost effectiveness. Plus, it gives people the chance to visit and shop and shine in Ferndale now, free of charge.
May I ask, while we are extending the free parking period, what are the enforcement officers doing?
They're actually, they've been, one of the things that we weren't really sure on is what an unanticipated outcome would come out of free parking. So we have them out right now monitoring making sure that people aren't parking in front of fire hydrants, not in handicap parking, but also what are there issues that we weren't prepared for having free parking. that's a lot of people coming in that you just don't know, are they staying all day, or are people blocking? Sometimes free parking means more than free parking to some people. So we have them out doing that, checking the RPZ zone as well as we'll be working with them. They were out there with people for the last 3 weeks, so we'll be picking their brain as well. What feedback did you get? I know the chief actually, they already come to him with quite a few suggestions. We'll be sitting down with them as well, and some of the ambassadors that were there.
Good, that would be my suggestion, if they're not, maybe we can get them in the neighborhoods, particularly the RPC zones more.
So I think go ahead.
Oh, no, do you want to finish your thought there?
I just want to say that over the past 3 weeks.
Hang on a second. I just want to address the free parking issue, because if this was a learning curve issue, I don't think I'd be in favor of it. But this is our issue. We don't have enough units, we don't have enough lighting, and the machines aren't working to ours and our visitors' satisfaction. And so I think it's incumbent upon us not to start charging for the system until we get it right. We have a duty to get this right, and I think that's a fair way to go.
I concur, and I completely agree with that step forward. So, do we need a motion?
We do, actually.
We need a motion for that?
Yeah.
But I do have one.
Yes, I think you should.
I do have one forward-thinking thought. I just wanted to say, I really appreciate the city managers and the staff, because I know this has been a team approach to implementation, and I really want to thank you for the hustle and the way that you guys are dealing with these challenges with the parking system. And so I guess I want to reinforce that the city has taken this very seriously. This has been #1 priority, and I know staff has been spending an extraordinary amount of time and hours to make sure we do get this right. But speaking of that, I'm also interested, when you guys get some breathing space and the new meters are in, is having a reflection or lessons learned about this implementation, so that we learn, we apply what we've learned going forward to future types of projects, so that we can avoid some of these issues that arose. So some known and some unknown, and how do we better mitigate these things? So that's where I put my request for today, when you get some more breathing space after March 11th.
I agree. I think, as you are doing, all the energy is towards fixing it, and then we need to take some time to look at what happened.
So a motion would be in order then.
I would move that we extend the free parking through March 11th, 2013.
I support.
Moved by Martin, supported by Piana. Is there any additional comments or questions on that?
No, I do want to say, I just really appreciate the visitors and the residents' patience as we work through this. And we understand this is very daunting, a change like this, and we just really appreciate the feedback. We actually, when I say that we've taken every comment on Facebook, every email that we've had, every phone call, we've reviewed it and added it to a list of things that we need to address. So we really do appreciate your patience, as well as your continued patience as we work through this process.
Let me reiterate what Melanie said. You and your staff have done a wonderful job. You've really taken a lot of heat off us, so to speak.
Well, let's see.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll on that motion, please?
Councilmembers Piana,
Yes.
Lennon,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Coulter.
Yes, thank you. That item is adopted. April, any last comments on this, or are you?
No, not yet, no.
Okay. So as promised, because we really do value the feedback and care about your concerns and frustrations, I'm going to insert a special call to audience right here for anyone who wants to address the parking issue. Call to audience, for those of you who don't know, is 3 minutes, up to 3 minutes for you to say whatever you want. It's not a debate, so we don't talk back. Don't think we're ignoring you. We don't talk back unless you have a specific question that we can answer. Otherwise, it's your 3 minutes to say anything that's on your mind, in this case about parking. And we'll do this for 30 minutes and more time if needed at the end of the meeting. So just come on up to the microphone, state your name and your address if you don't mind, and say your piece.
Hi, I'm Rose Swede from Swede Communications, Public Relations, and Step on Bus Tours. I'm at 195 West 9 Mile in Suite 211, Ferndale.
And hang on, let's see if we can get that.
have a feeling it's the camera.
Here she comes. Okay, we'll see. We'll do our best to eliminate that feedback. Sorry.
Is it still going, or should I?
No, that's better, actually.
I'm here to talk about parking, and I have some solutions to offer. I am a small business, and I'm very concerned about how much I will have to pay for parking for myself and for my employees. You know, I'm not faceless. I'm Ferndale, I'm small business, and there's tons of us. You don't want to lose us. The parking pass is now $360 per vehicle per year if you pay for a full year in advance. It's a huge chunk for us. Otherwise, you can pay $120 for 3 months, which is still a large chunk. It ends up being $480 per vehicle per year. I can't afford to pay this for myself and my employee. I would like to ask you for some relief or some help with this. It's my understanding that there's a downtown resident rate of $100 a year for parking, and why are downtown business owners and employees not given the same option? Could you please give it to us? There are many of us that can't afford this high parking rate for our business. I've heard all the stories. I've seen people struggling with the parking tonight. I heard ladies say they're worried about getting their purses snatched. I hear it all the time. I'm right across from the, I guess, premier lot between One-Eyed Betty's and Better Business Systems. Had I known that parking would be so volatile when I moved back to Ferndale in 2007, I wouldn't have moved here. Here are my solutions. I think that Ferndale business owners should get the same parking break as the downtown Ferndale residents of a pass for $100 per year. We're all struggling. This is reasonable, and it would alleviate a lot of the insult and gouging felt by us, or go back to installing traditional meters, at least in some areas. You're also asking me to shift my parking from where I'm at in Ferndale over to the area behind the former Dollar Castle. That's inconvenient for me. I sometimes get to work at 5 a.m. Sometimes I stay as late as 11. Staying that late doesn't happen all the time. Also, could you, if you can't do this, would you consider parking should be free for small business owners with specified passes, or from specific times, maybe from 11 to 6:30, or whatever other hours we could come up with. My landlord is Tom Perlman. I think the world of him. He's just a terrific landlord. He was telling me that Berkeley and Hazel Park don't charge for parking. I don't think you want me to leave. The other thing that
And you're close to 3 minutes, so if you could just...
Okay, the other thing I'm worried about is the criminal opportunity. These ladies are going around, their purses are on their shoulder. I've seen a lot of panhandlers. I'm concerned. We don't need to have our eyes blackened anymore. This should not be an issue. We need to get business into Ferndale. I don't know if you've noticed the number of stores that are out on 9 Mile and also Woodward. So please, just help me get a better rate. Me being Ferndale small business. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to address Council on Parking this evening? Dennis. Good evening, sir.
Hi, Dennis Augustin, 1550 Spencer. I've listened to what people are saying about, not feeling too secure about, standing at these meters and all that. And it sounds to me like there wasn't much paid attention to that or given much thought to. And another thing is when I was in Royal Oak today, I was looking around on the spaces and that. And you can tell the popular spaces, those numbers are already wore out. And I mean, the maintenance on that's got to more than make up for the cost savings of these meters. You're going to spend for whatever price you can get on a good bulk quantity of paint or numbers, however you're going to attach them. 2, you're going to have probably 2, maybe 3 men down there because you're going to want, safety. The guy's got to be protected while one's painting that. So you're taking up spaces, and that. What was any of that given any consideration? I mean, if these meters are supposed to be saving money, I don't see how they can save money. I really don't. I mean, I realize you're talking about theft. Okay, I understand that, but I just don't see how these meters are going to save you some money if the most popular spaces are going to be requiring the most maintenance. In other words, ones closest to the building where people are going to go versus the ones farther away. You know, those ones that are close to the building they're gonna be required more paint, more maintenance, more whatever, you know, and they're gonna take and make up for those ones that don't need it. We're already waiting in line to get our food at these restaurants, and now we're gonna have to wait outside some more. And after seeing the water meter guy at my house this past week with another bucket full of water meters, I'm kind of skeptical about these parking meters. You know, I really am. I haven't used them yet, but maybe before I retire, I'll probably use them once. You know, but I'm really skeptical about this here. Yeah.
We'd prefer if you walk and leave the space for someone. I'm kidding, guys. Anyone else who'd like to address council regarding parking this evening? Yeah, just step right up. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Laura Wicke. I'm actually a resident of Oak Park, but I do come to Ferndale about once a week for various items. 2 points I'd like to make. First of all, I do appreciate all of the work and the research that did go into installing the new parking meters. I do understand that work was done and it wasn't just a quick decision and that they were put in. But as is glaringly obvious tonight by what I'm hearing and all the feedback on social media, it was executed poorly. And so I would recommend, just as a suggestion, I think the 2 weeks of free parking is a good idea. I would almost go as far as to say roll the system back and pick 2 lots, for example, and do the meters there and get the data from there. I'm an engineer. I understand being data-driven. You have some. You can get some more just from a couple lots. One other point about that, I think it's a great fact that we now know from Thursday to Saturday are the peak times in the evening, but we already knew that. That's when Ferndale is most popular. So that was kind of obvious to me. And the one other point I wanted to make was the increase in the parking rates. And just, I know there's been a lot of talk about this, and just a very simple comment on that. Most of the response I've seen from the city is that these rates are comparable with cities like Royal Oak and Birmingham. The reason my family and I chose Oak Park is because it's closer to Ferndale, and that's specifically because Ferndale is not Royal Oak and Birmingham. That's why we're happy to be here.
Appreciate it.
Ferndale is different, and it's wonderfully different. So I don't agree with the comments that while it's comparable, I don't want Ferndale to be like that. So thank you for your time.
Appreciate it. Thanks for coming. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm an owner of Modern Natural Baby, 224 West 9 Mile, also a resident of Ferndale, 210 East Camborne. First, we got beat up. As far as businesses, we got beat up pretty bad these last 3 weeks. We stepped ahead and said, listen, we're going to pay for your parking. So we had people come in and pay for your have parking paid for. Park Mobile, nobody told us that you changed Park Mobile. And so with Park Mobile, that's a problem. It used to be that you walk up, you start it at Park Mobile, and okay, I'm starting my parking, and then when you leave, you end it. You get paid for that specific time period. Now what happened is that's no longer the case. And to me, I feel it feels almost like a money grab just for the fact that when, let's say I forget to turn my parking off, what I'll say is, oh, silly John, I forgot to turn my parking and you were charged. But when I get another 35-cent surcharge because that happened, and what I'm thinking now is we have more leverage than ever before. And I don't know why we're not taking this leverage. Park Mobile is now our #1 way for people to park. Can we go to Park Mobile and say, listen, a lot of people are and then take that leverage and say, I want that down to 35 or maybe 25 cents without an extra leverage charge. As far as with parking rates, the parking rates are, one of our customers said, it's a cold day in hell before I'd pay $1 an hour to shop here. That's not generally what most people are saying, but that's one customer I lost. That's 2 customers I lost. So I'm thinking, let's put this Ferndale magic together, right? We got this parking. I mean, let's say the pay stations are staying, right? I mean, is that what's happening? We haven't got together and said, hey guys, let's have free parking and people are on their own honor system. I mean, that's not happening, right? We're keeping these pay stations. Even though we're doubling the pay stations, I mean, is this the time to say, let's stop? Let's see if this is where we need to go. because an honor system of parking in Ferndale might just work. Crazy enough, it just might work. And the marketing and advertising we could get for doing that would be amazing. Other things, if we're keeping the pay stations, what about the marketing? Like CVS, you go in, you swipe your card, you get coupons, right? Instead of having citizens and customers pay more money, what if, when I pay, it says, if you're pregnant, go into Modern Natural Baby and I'll give you a free box of gum pink cigars, right? And I'll pay you for that, right? Because that's an amazing marketing vehicle. Is there another way to get money, maybe from the business owners, opposed to my customers and the residents here in Ferndale? So what I'm thinking is, to me, that is a golden opportunity. In other businesses, you have a lot of creative minds here, and just talking with some of the business owners and their ideas and their input, I'm going to tell you, right now, our business is higher than probably 15% off, right? Because what we did is we were telling our customers, we know our customers, we said, hey, there's free parking. So the numbers you have, they're probably much higher. They're probably a lot higher. And so the one thing I'm afraid about is that you're going to put more parking pay stations in there, and they're not going to be true numbers again. And I'll leave this last part. We had a lady standing in line for the parking, the pay meter. It was cold. And the person ahead of, she pregnant, had a baby, in Ferndale, a guy behind her said, can I stand in line for you? And then that, I'm just saying, sometimes beautiful things come out of that, and that's what the Ferndale magic is. And I want to make sure that our PR, we don't lose that feeling or lose that creativity. Go to the businesses. These businesses, they're so creative.
Thank you.
And that's it. Thank you. Sorry I went over.
Nope, thank you. And April, let me just ask you, because we didn't talk about Park Mobile before, but there has been some transition issues there. You want to just briefly touch on what's going on with Park Mobile and
Sure, I understand that. Originally, Park Mobile just automatically, I think, put 2-hour parking in your system, and now you actually can go in like a meter and pick how much time you want. So I think what's happening is before, I'm not really clear on at what point, but what's happened now, though, is if you don't change it and add more, and you miss it and you time out, you have to go in again. It's a separate transaction. So
in part of your review, can you reconnect with them and find out if there's, I've heard that from a number of people. Can we find out if we can go back to the old way of Park Mobile that people love so much? Thank you. Yes, sir. Good evening.
Yes, Evan Sissel, a Ferndale resident. Yeah, at any given time, I see these pay stations, probably about, 10 or 12 people just lined up. I think it's kind of silly, almost trivial in a sense. The old system was better. And again, this is Ferndale. I don't like to be trendy as far as, Birmingham and Royal Oak rates and parking are outrageous. Ferndale is, a nice trendy place where people like to come, and I think the parking rates are a little bit too high. On a lighter note, though, I was wondering, on a different subject, as far as the zoning commissions, like division, have any land space usage for gardening, urban gardening by any chance, or some sort of urban gardening sort of activity or foundation to be started by any chance? Like any land that the city owned that is willing to allot? Because I know there's that one at Taft School, but is there any more land that could be?
I see Derek back there. I know that is a little off topic, but Derek, do you want to just quickly address that? Did you hear the question? Yeah, just quickly. Huh?
Why don't we just have him connect?
Yeah.
Just have him connect.
There's a great idea. You want to talk to Derek about that? Derek Delacorte is our Director of Community and Economic Development. He'd be able to assist you with that. Good evening.
Good evening. Gary Andrews. I'm a resident, 446 West Drayton. First of all, I want to say thank you for allowing the free parking to go on while this whole situation is being worked on. It shows faith for the people in the council. Also, that acknowledging that social media, albeit sometimes the comments can come across awfully harsh when people are in the heat of the moment, it is a way of finding out how the majority of the people in your city actually feel. I'm actually here on a sad note tonight because I've been asked to represent a couple of business owners that refuse to appear for fear of the retribution they will get from their downtown development authority. And I can provide those names to you, Mayor Coulter, privately at a later date. It's already been mentioned, the parking rates are way high. They put in phone calls. They're not getting responses. I feel that our Downtown Development Authority is spending money way out of hand. We've laid off police officers, we've laid off firemen, we've had to all tighten in our shoes, and every time we turn around, we've got new things being spent on by the DDA that frankly is not helping this city in the least. No one can honestly tell me how metal art on all these corners, and now we're doing fundraisers to be able to purchase 2 more. And yet, we're being forced to implement this new parking meter system that if the Downtown Development Authority, their directors and managers, had stepped out of the door and talked to any one of us that own, run, or operate businesses in this city, and were more in tune to what they wanted, which was leave it as it is, we're losing business with all the changes, this would not have happened. And frankly, as a citizen and a taxpayer here, I'm offended that my money is being put into this city to make it grow and better for all of us. And I can walk downtown at noon hour, and there's either a bunch of people huddled around a pay station, or at noon we've got 3 people walking on the street, and I'm one of them. Nightlife is great. I enjoy coming out. I enjoy nightlife too. It's great. But we don't offer anything else to the majority of the citizens that, frankly, in the beginning said no. Too many problems. There's always too many problems. And we're forced as citizens to put up with it. So may I make a suggestion that please remember forward thinking isn't always best for all things, and that if you really are going to be forward thinking on something, let's try it a little smaller, because then you can work out your glitches and progress on from there. But I and a lot of other citizens are now saying we need to shake up and restructure what's going on with our Downtown Development Authority so we don't run into these issues. Because frankly, I can't even get a response from any of them, and nor can any of the business owners. We need change. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Karen Tardif. I have Blue Moon Vintage at 250 West 9 Mile. And I want to tell you, I hate the system. All of my customers hate it. I went up and down the street today on the 100 through 300, all my neighbors along there, to make sure people would come tonight to speak out. And I ended up spending a lot of time in their stores listening to Rant Fest. I mean, there's no way, I'm sorry, Ms. Lynch, that you think we are going to have a phenomenal parking system. You're dreaming. You're listening to some sales pitch about what you think it's going to be and what you think Ferndale is going to be. Because what it is, somebody says we don't want things to be like poor white trash. Well, I'm sorry. I'm proud of what I am. I've got a business. I like it the way it is. You know, like, we don't need this. Everyone hates it. I'm losing business. I had 3 nice middle-aged women come in the store Wednesday afternoon. It's 26 degrees out. And they're like, where do you pay to park? Oh, that's funny. There's a station right behind my store right there. And so I go out the door with one of them.
Address us. April just does what we ask her to do. So we're the ones that support
I'm
this.
sorry. It's just she did so much of the presenting.
She did,
I won't keep looking at her.
I just feel like we'll take the lunch.
I'm sorry.
We made the
I go outside with one of the ladies and to show her where it is to go pay. I go back in. The 2 ladies are shopping. Within a few minutes, she comes back in and she says, "Let's go. We got to go." It's like I'm freezing. The lines out there, you know, like, and they're standing there trying to figure out what's going on. I sent email to Chris Hughes and she said, "There's a learning curve. People need to figure it out." You know, like, and this is winter. Things are dead. I'm making no money. I've got $18 in the register, and I just had 3 ladies walk out. You know, like, I need those people. I don't know where they came from. I can't bring them back and tell them we've got free parking like they're trying to say, tell your customers. I don't know where those customers are. It's dead. And they think when people figure out how to work that system, everything's going to be better. And when this is winter, when summer gets here and we got a lot of people in Ferndale for different events, for every person in that line, And I know there's going to be lines. I have no faith in this at all. There's going to be at least 2 people on that line who don't know how to use it because they've never been here before. You're killing this town, and I'm sorry I moved back here, you know, like, and opened up in August, because it's a mess. Everybody, every store I went into, Michigo hates it, Dye hates it, Bangkok Express says they got people not coming in. All the phone orders, they're complaining. They got to go and stand in line to put a quarter in there so they can pick up their food. You know, like.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Chris Gorski. After reading, 13-year resident, and I also have a business at Rust Belt, Detroit GT. I began the page on Facebook, Lower Ferndale's parking rates. I'll be brief. I just would like you to, look into lowering the rates. Thank you for giving us free parking, working out the glitches. I do feel the system does have some advantages that the problems are overshadowing the advantages. There's going to be a learning curve, but I think the rates could probably bring things, help people maybe consume the new parking multi-space situation. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Good evening.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Ann St. Peter. I have a bakery on 9 Mile, 220 West 9 Mile. I've been here 6 years. I want to reiterate a lot of what's already said, that I agree with, pretty much everything. A couple of points I want to make are the employee parking. I don't know if resident rate is something that can be looked into. It certainly is something worth looking into. Something I think that will happen more and more is that employees of businesses are going to end up parking further in the neighborhoods and taking up more on-street parking. One spot I've always thought might be looked into is the meter parking on Withington. During the day, there is not one car ever parked on that strip. If there's something that can be worked out where spots like that aren't being utilized by visitors can be utilized for employees at a different rate, maybe not in the lots, something to look into.
Yeah.
Another thing I think should be looked into is the start time of meters and the charging. When the 9 o'clock meter fee started, our business dropped off by half in the morning. We've had a really steady morning flow. Now it's a trickle. It's made a huge difference. I don't know if 11 a.m. is something that can be looked into. For the daytime businesses, it would really help to get people to come into the town during the day. The end time at night is another thing that should probably get looked into as well. 11 o'clock, I think, is really late. Ann Arbor stops at 6 p.m. I don't know how they, make that work, but for them it works. The park app issues are another thing. People do not want to have to pay again and again and again if they feel like they're going to end up staying. Maybe they want to go somewhere else, but they're not going to go somewhere else because they have to pay another fee on their app. And another thing that's really a concern of mine is making it easier for people who don't do it very often, who don't use these kind of systems often. People who come in once a year. People are going to come in for the DIY Fest or the different festivals we have. They come here, or the Dream Cruise. Those people don't come here on a regular basis, and they're going to get frustrated, and they're going to remember that. They're not going to want to come back the next year. Seniors, customers of mine who are older, it doesn't make any sense to them. I think that's really it. It's just all the issues everyone is talking about really need to be revisited.
I appreciate it. And even though we don't talk during this period, I will tell you, because April didn't mention it, but rate and hours are going to be part of what we evaluate in terms of the whole system. So we're not addressing those this evening, but they will be evaluated.
I actually have a question for April. In your information that you were able to gather, does it tell you what the average time of a transaction was? How long it was taking people?
I'm not sure, but I can find out.
It would be interesting to find out how long it is taking now based on, going against what it's supposed to take.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Thanks for coming out. Good evening.
Good evening. Chris Johnston, Woodward Avenue Brewers, and some other places. I want to start by saying thanks to everyone for listening to the citizens. My wife and I have lived here for 16 years and have been in business the same number, and I've never seen a problem in Ferndale we can't fix, and I think that that's what we're doing. Maybe it won't happen in 2 weeks, who knows, but I honestly believe that we'll get there. I think there's a lot of great minds that are involved in the city and that live in the city, and I think there's a lot of great ideas that will become of this. So I look forward to that. I think everyone else does. I also wanted to say to basically the citizens of Ferndale and our customers and business owners that I think with free parking over the next 2 weeks, I think there may be a temptation to drive when you don't have to drive, or not ride a bike, or park longer, or park in a spot that's not where you normally would park. And I guess I just want to encourage us all to avoid those things, because it really, just because it's free parking doesn't mean that we need to take advantage of that, because those spots really are valuable, not just for customers. There are lots of business owners that come in from far away and need places to park. I don't want to discount those needs, but I really want people to be aware of, what free parking is meant to do, and hopefully it helps all the businesses and the residents and the people that need that parking get it and use it and have it be a more efficient and happy experience when they come to Ferndale over the next couple of weeks. Like I said, thanks a lot. I think that we'll get there. I have confidence. So,
thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. Good evening.
Emily Murray, a resident at 210 East Camborne and a business owner. I own Modern Natural Baby at 224 West 9 Mile. I just wanted to emphasize what has been said about business owners and employees. The parking passes are way too expensive for us to do that. There's not really a place for us to park without paying, and we used to park on Withington, on the right in front of houses, which I felt bad about, but it's just the way it was. I think that, somebody said $100 a year. I think that's reasonable for employees and business owners. It's just, it's a hardship. And I know this, I know you said you were getting more meters, and obviously our lot is the Withington lot, which is one of the busiest ones, but my customers are pregnant, they have small children, they have babies, and it's really hard. I experience it myself because I have 2 small children myself, standing in line at one of those, putting my kids down in a parking lot. It's not safe. And I have to put my small baby down, my 4-year-old already on the ground, to dig my wallet out, that kind of stuff. It's hard. So just, that it's a hardship. And my husband wants me to say this, but expectant mother parking would be nice, maybe free parking. I know that's obviously specific.
He's a
to my
very creative
business.
guy.
But pregnant women shop in other stores and dine in Ferndale too. So anyway, that's all. I just wanted to emphasize those kind of things.
Thank you. Thank you. I said 30 minutes, so we would have time for one more person if there's someone that's got something they really want to say. We're also going to do public comment again in a little while after the other presentation, so stick with us. George, good evening.
George Heath, on Asagi.
Yes.
We've been in Ferndale for 13 years. And it seems like DDA on one corner and you guys in the other corner. Is no communication. If I want to pay my taxes to support people to work to promote DDA, downtown development, what they are doing, what kind of business they are bringing to Detroit, to Ferndale? Nothing. They collect money and they dictate. Okay, and you guys, you listen to them. Last time I told you don't listen to them because you don't know Ferndale. You don't know who come to Ferndale. You don't know what kind of people come to Ferndale. When you don't listen to the guy on the data. You need nine stations. You need 9 stations. And on the street on Wellington, you have 1 station for 15 cars. You need 9. Don't give me faces. You need 9. I started my life in America. I had a parking lot for 8 years downtown. I had a 3 parking lot. I know what I'm talking about. Last week, I lost customer. I lost 12 people. I went outside. I said, hey guys, it's free parking. I'm not giving no ticket. If they get ticket, it's on me. I pay $200 a week to provide valet for the customer. They're coming outside of Frindale. Nobody gave me anything. So don't kill Frindale. You are killing it. You have to walk the street. I never see your face. I never see his face. I never see your face. I never see none of them. Do you know what's in Frindale?
Don't make it personal, George.
No, it's not personal. But you don't know what's Frindale. You don't know what the capacity of Frindale. It could be, but you are not. You are on the wrong road. We want to work together. You need us. We pay taxes for your police, for the firemen, for your life, for everything. We pay taxes for DDA. Their responsibility to come to inform the businesses, hey, I'm doing. What do you think? We have to work together. If we don't work together, we're going to fail. And I don't like to be a failure.
Amen. All right. That was 30 minutes of called audience for parking. I want to do the other presentations, and then we'll have another opportunity for called audience if you didn't get a chance to say what you wanted to, but you could also speak at that point on any other issue that you like. So let's move on to the second presentation for this evening. Presentation B is a resolution of appreciation to Buffalo Wild Wings for donations for the election workers, and I think Sherilyn wants to tell us about that.
Is Dean Miles here from Buffalo Wild Wings?
Hey.
Wonderful. I'll have you come up in just a minute. I just want to talk a little bit about what Buffalo Wild Wings has done for the city of Ferndale, specifically for elections. For the last, since 2008, they started supplying dinner for all of our election inspectors in our then 9 precincts, plus the officials here at City Hall, our absent voter counting board, and they did this for free. They donated the food, and they have done that for every election since November of 2008. So that's 11 elections, which equals over 600 meals. So yes. It exemplifies the spirit of Ferndale, which I've heard so many of you talking about tonight. So we just want to take a moment and honor them with a resolution. And I'm going to read it, and then, Dean, I'll ask you to come up and accept it on behalf of Buffalo Wild Wings. City of Ferndale Proclamation honoring Buffalo Wild Wings' commitment and contributions to the City of Ferndale. Mayor David Coulter, on behalf of the Ferndale City Council, extends the city's heartfelt appreciation to Buffalo Wild Wings for their generosity in serving the Ferndale community. Since 2008, Buffalo Wild Wings, under the guidance of manager Dean Miles, has donated dinner for Ferndale's election inspectors and officials on Election Day. Over the course of 11 elections, BW3 has provided more than 600 dinners for our dedicated election team. Buffalo Wild Wings and Dean Miles are a credit to this community, and it is with sincere and deep gratitude that we recognize them for selflessly serving Ferndale.
Yeah. Come on over, Mary, and they can come in front and everybody. Snap a couple pictures of you. Thank you. Yep. Thank you very, very much. We'll allow you to say a few words if you want, but first we'll let you take a picture. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right, our next presentation is Friends of the Public Library. I'm not sure who's here to present for that, but that's you. Step on up. Please? Well, where do you want to? Oh.
Shall we?
We'll need the microphone is all, right? So we'll make sure we. Mm-hmm. Sure, please do.
Can you hear me? My name is Kelly Farah. I'm the president of the Friends of the Ferndale Library. And with the renovation of our beautiful library, we also have a revitalized Friends organization. And through the hard work of our volunteers and our fundraising efforts, and the especially hard work and dedication of our bookstore volunteers, we've able to tonight present this check to our new director of the library, Jessica Kaiser, a check in the amount of $8,000. And I'm very happy and proud to hand this over. A lot of books and a lot of happy, fun events. And I just want to highlight one of the things, the Lucky Day Collection. If you didn't know, one of the programs they have now is called the Lucky Day Collection. There's the most popular books out there. You walk into the library, it's your lucky day. They've got multiple copies, and you too can take that book home. So, Jessica?
Thank you so much to Kelly and to all of the wonderful friends of the library. I've been blown away by all of their support and hard work and how much fun they really have as a group. I've really enjoyed working with them. And another program that they are helping to support this year is our Ferndale Reads program. This year we are reading Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. And I actually brought a box of books with me tonight. If anybody would like a copy and hasn't gotten one yet, I have them.
Great book.
And yes. And we're also doing a new component to our program this year, Get Caught Reading, where we have checkers at certain local businesses where if you bring your book to the selected businesses to read, you can get entered into a raffle to win a prize. So we're having a lot of fun with that this year, and we couldn't do it without the support of our friends. So thank you.
Thank you. Free books and free parking all in one night. That's all we're doing. That's all we're doing tonight. Next presentation is the Downtown Development Authority. Chris Hughes is going to tell us all the greatest and latest news and events from the DDA.
Good evening, Chris Hughes, Communications and Marketing Manager, Ferndale DDA. Very short this evening. I just wanted to invite all of our businesses and anybody else who's watching this. We have our monthly FernNet business-to-business meeting this Wednesday, February 27th, at the library at 9 a.m. We will be talking about a variety of things. We will probably be talking about parking, but we will also be talking about business as usual and marketing our downtown and what you can do to market your downtown and the great events that we have coming up ahead, because we have a very busy downtown with a full schedule of events. So we would like to invite everybody to come on out and have a conversation with us and share your ideas about whatever you'd like to. So we'll be there. I'd also like to put out a phone number. If you have any questions about anything, our phone number is printed at the, well, you won't be getting them now, but it's been printed on the receipt of the parking ticket. But our phone number is 248-546-1632. Our website is downtownferndale.com. It's been out of commission for a little bit, but we're back up and running now. And we like to hear from you and communicate to each of you and to our businesses. So thank you very much. We'll all keep up the good work working together. Thank you.
Chris. Thanks, Chris. Our next presentation is Tammy Salisbury is here from the 8 Mile Boulevard Association, and we asked Tammy to just come and present to us today the latest and greatest of what's going on 8 Mile Road and with the Boulevard Association. And so Tammy is here today to give us the latest. All right.
I'll remember next time. Let me just, I'm going to pull up the presentation here. Kind of went to sleep.
That doesn't look like 8 Mile.
That's after all the redevelopment.
What?
After all the redevelopment.
That's right.
We'll
Hello. Again, I'm Tammy Salisbury. I'm the Executive Director of the 8 Mile Boulevard Association. Just recently celebrated my 10th anniversary with the association, and 2013 we're celebrating our 20th anniversary as an association. I'm here joined with Jordan Torty, the other half of the 8 Mile Boulevard Association staff. We're a small nonprofit, but we're mighty. So I'm here to talk about a few things that we have going on. I wanted to give a quick background. I know there's a new face, although he just left. I know there's a new face to the council, but we're a 501c3 charitable organization. We were formed in 1993 by the bordering communities and counties. Essentially, the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments and the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation brought the communities and the counties together and talked about the issues that were affecting 8 Mile at that time, and said they would be much better going collaboratively together rather than independently trying to go alone. So the 8 Mile Boulevard Association was born, and we were structured as we are now. A lot of our activities are business retention and business attraction. We are continually developing programs to improve the aesthetic and economic character of the 8 Mile corridor. And you can see our mission there is to revitalize and promote the 8 Mile transportation, business, and residential corridor by linking the efforts of the public and private sectors. We cover a 27-mile stretch of 8 Mile Road, so I-94 is our eastern boundary and I-275 is our western boundary. You can see I made that out. I'm real technical here with the PowerPoint. There's approximately 1,700 businesses within this district. There's approximately 80,000 cars per day that travel 8 Mile Road. That's almost double what the traffic counts on Woodward. It's a 27-mile stretch we cover. And like I said, there's a lot of cars every day, a lot of patrons. Our board of directors consists of each of the chief elected officials from each community along the corridor, as well as the 3 county executives from Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb. We have 14 now businesses that are represented on our board of directors, and then the director of the Michigan Department of Transportation. 8 Mile is a state trunk line, so MDOT has ultimate jurisdiction over the corridor. We're funded annually by 3 revenue streams, which is the cities and the counties that pay dues into our association based on the number of miles they have on 8 Mile Road. That's 50% of our operating budget. 25% comes from the business and residents that belong to our association, our members, and then 25% comes from an annual luncheon we put on at the Detroit Marriott at the Renaissance Center. On average, we have approximately 800 people that attend that luncheon, and it's been deemed the mini Mackinac event, which we're grateful for. A lot of the physical activities that we do on the corridor are 100% grant funded. So to date, we are just about $4 million in funding over the past 20 years. A majority of that funding came from a $3.4 million grant from, it's a CMAQ grant, a Congestion Mitigation Air Quality grant that came to renovate all the bus stops on 8 Mile Road, as well as the transit centers at the Michigan State Fairgrounds, Northland Center and Eastland Center. We're finishing this year the Eastland and Northland Center terminals. Our programming, we have several programs that we run for 2 people. I would say that the one of the highlights programs that I've worked on since we got here and I had the pleasure of launching was our facade improvement program. We match any business dollar for dollar up to $10,000 if they improve their facade. We provide the architectural services for that. We have a 501c2 title holdings company. We actually are planning to get into the land business and start taking possession of properties that are in tax reversion, foreclosure, or a variety of ways that property seems to be languishing at this time. So right now we're partnering with the University of Michigan. They've selected 8 Mile as a capstone project, and they're evaluating our title holdings company and giving us a roadmap of how we can in the future launch this program, funding resources that are available, and we will be selective in who we sell to. They're developing a set of criteria of who we will and who we will not sell to in the future. We have the luncheon fundraiser I mentioned. We have a golf outing fundraiser we have in September. That is at the only golf course on 8 Mile Road at Whispering Willows in the city of Livonia. We have our Clean the D initiative. We bring about 300 to 500 high school students together each spring from various high schools along 8 Mile Road. Our core high schools are Pershing in Detroit, Brother Rice High School, and U of D Jesuit. And there's nothing greater than seeing these kids come together and really put teams of each school, and they all go together, and it's such an exciting thing to see. And they really are our future, and they really have a much brighter future, a much brighter look about 8 Mile Road. And what's really exciting is to we do surveys afterwards of their experience. And we're really finding what's neat is people stop them and say, how did you do this? How can I participate in this? And, their experience of when they maybe came into 8 Mile Road and they thought that they were scared or, they didn't know what to expect. And their experience afterward, it's really affected them. And I think that's really important. And, the kudos from the local residents really goes a long way. So we're really excited about that program and where that's going. Our Corridor Keeper program, as you know, we hired a code enforcement person, but not really enforcement, just someone, an extra set of eyes and ears that is helping all the 13 city code enforcement departments. And that's really worked out well because we're identifying where there's a lack of code enforcement, there's a ton of criminal activity. So we're working with law enforcement and code enforcement right now on identifying those common threads and figuring out how we address those. We have 36 perennial gardens in the median that we maintain. Anything in the median that has a flower, that's our garden. We maintain those in our budget. As well as the city identification signage. We installed those. We insure those signs to make sure they look their best. We also coordinate lawn cutting with MDOT. For those of you that are familiar with the area, I love MDOT, but they haven't done a great job of mowing the median. So I'm trying to be nice. So we've now coordinated with all the DPW departments of all 13 municipalities. We bring them together annually with MDOT to talk about the lawn cutting and how we'll address that, as well as litter and debris pickup, among other things. So I think that's something that's really important. Pulling everybody together and having honest dialogue is really helpful, I think, similar to what's happening here tonight. We also have beautification awards. Just like blight can be contagious, so can beautification. It's 1,700 businesses. We give out 20 beautification awards. And what's interesting is we also announced 80 honorable mentions. And now we're seeing some spirited competition between neighbors saying, I'm going to outdo you with my flowers next year. And I think that's something that we really hope to see, and that's something we are seeing. I also wanted to bring a document that we're developing. We're putting together a best practices document, and it's a corridor overlay standards that we're asking all municipalities to approve, and we're having all the planners provide input. And it's a set of guidelines for building standards for the future of 8 Mile Road. We feel like we all need to be singing from the same hymn book, so we thought we developed this. We don't have the money to hire consultants, so we developed ourselves. We took all of the corridor studies that are happening throughout the region, and I have this great person on staff who pulled this all together, and I think it's a pretty doggone good document, and so do the planners. So I'd be happy to share that with you if you'd like to see that. I talked about our facade improvement program. I won't go over that anymore. I wanted you to see some of the incentives, our incentives for the facade improvement program and the results that are coming from those incentives. This is, if you're familiar with 8 Mile DeQuinder, this is just east of DeQuinder. This was a defunct Arby's. It had barbed wire on 3 sides of the fence line, and all that was taken down. They put decorative fencing. This is a Subway now. Put over $500,000 of investment into that, and we had $1,000 into the game here. And what was great about that is that we were able to encourage additional landscaping, irrigation, and us being at the table and using these guidelines as our guide has really, really been helpful, and working, having that carrot to dangle among the businesses has really been beneficial. So we took a vacant property and now it's occupied. In addition, this is in Southfield, near Inkster. This was an empty building. It was Michigan Flooring Liquidators, and it was empty, and now it's going to be occupied with 3 Point Machine. They're actually going to have 2 locations on 8 Mile Road. They put over $200,000 into the property, and we matched them dollar for dollar, $5,000, and that's really seemed to take off because it's occupied and it's going to be generating taxes for Southfield. Lastly, I thought this was another exciting one. This is at Wyoming and 8 Mile in Detroit. And this is just a private developer who's has several of these fish houses throughout the community. But I feel that this is something you'd see in Birmingham. And we're really, really proud of this facade. And what's great is so is the property owner. And I think that that's something that's really, really beneficial throughout this program is the investment and the pride that they take in their property now. So he's really excited about this. And even before he finished, there were people, it built up some hype in the community. And it really gave people a sense of excitement in their community. And so we're really excited about the facade improvement program and where it's going. And the last two, the $15,000 that we awarded to these was a special one-time funding that we received. Well, hopefully it's repeated. But we received a grant from Keep America Beautiful. There were 20 grants that were awarded nationwide. We were the only group to receive money in Michigan, in the entire state of Michigan. So we were really grateful to receive this $20,000 award. And we were told by Keep America Beautiful that we stood out with what we were able to achieve with our award. So we're really excited about that. I just want to talk about the ways that we communicate, obviously social media, our e-newsletter, the Corridor Connector, and our website. All of this will be redesigned as our 20th anniversary rollout. We worked with the College for Creative Studies in Detroit, and they just developed a new identity for us that is going to be launched at our luncheon this year. So we're really excited about that. And I just want to talk about briefly the future of the 8 Mile Boulevard Association. We are relocating our offices currently. We call it carpet surfing at Hagopian. They're providing donated space to us, and we will be moving to Gateway Marketplace at 8 Mile and Woodward come July 2013. We are currently working with Meyer. They came to me and asked me about strategies to hire and outreach efforts, so I will obviously be reaching out to Ferndale. This will be a kind of a quick pace that'll start March 14th, so I certainly stay tuned on that. Obviously, there's some announcements about the Michigan State Fairgrounds, and we requested in a letter, which you all have a copy of, that a design charrette be done with the State Fair Advisory Committee, which is made up of the local residents in Detroit, Detroit representatives, Ferndale, 8MBA, and the Woodward Avenue Action Association. And lastly, I talked about our title holdings company. I think that's really exciting. And lastly, but not least, I wanted to mention that 8MBA was selected to receive a Detroit Challenge Fellow. So that means we'll have an employee starting in September, which is very exciting because it's a really, really important program. I think it's going on, and we're excited to be part of it. So anyways, I'm happy to take any questions if there are any. I tried to talk fast. So
you did a great job getting a lot of information in quickly. I think there are a few questions of council. If you don't mind, just stick around for a little while. Mike.
Brief, real quick, point blank, what can you do about the railroad overpass in our city?
The railroad overpass over here by the State Fairgrounds?
You seen it?
Outside of imploding it? No.
Can
No,
you do
I'm
that?
sorry. No, I, as far as getting it repaired
yeah.
and lit?
Painted, repaired, graffiti off, everything.
Yes, actually, I met with the State Land Bank, and I talked about some of the concerns that there's not a mid-block crossing between Ferndale and the new development. I've been assured that those conversations are not done, and that you can rest assured you have an advocate, and I'm happy to continue that discussion and add the railroad bridge. There is a corridor improvement authority as part of the Gateway Marketplace project.
Yeah,
so there's some opportunities to do things beyond just the footprint of the land.
Our east side of 8 Mile is kind of
It's really quite a blight. Yeah.
Now, I see the fence is coming down, if I remember correctly, the green fence that's been
Yes,
there
the median.
1960, I think they put that in.
Byron and I have tried, well, Byron, when he was here, and I tried to get that repaired, and that's something on my MDOT list for when we meet with the DPW directors next week.
I'm sure Lloyd will have some questions for you.
Yes, yeah, I haven't met Lloyd yet.
Oh, he's right next to you. No, right next to you.
Right next to you. Down.
Oh, down.
He's new.
We're being kind when you
friends.
when you talk about Wayne County and MDOT and getting cooperation on the cut their lawn. Now, I know we do salt 8 Mile, and we do get some reimbursement as far as salting goes. Is there something you could do to work with our director, maybe if we had the personnel and and we can get some reimbursement, if we can spruce up our side of 8 Mile? Basically, the only place we got to go is from Woodward to Pinecrest, but if we could do the cutting.
Well, that's what this meeting's about, is to take the allocation that's allocated to 8 Mile Road and ask which communities wants to take that allocation and take that section over.
Okay, great.
So that's what this meeting's about.
I won't bother you anymore.
Nope, you're not bothering at all.
I have a couple of questions. Thanks for coming in tonight and giving us an annual presentation about where you're going, and you've got some exciting things going. And I really do think you guys do a lot with a two-person nonprofit with the budget that you have. And nonprofits are always looking to, figure out new programming for cities. So I really appreciate what you've done, and I also want to let people know that you helped try to save our crosswalk on 8 Mile. So I appreciate those efforts working with MDOT and SEMCOG, but we're losing our crosswalk on 8 Mile in front of the Gateway projects. I know really wanted to save that. So I look forward to working with you on other complete street type projects along the 8 Mile corridor. And I was also wondering what's going on with that gray building on 8 Mile in front of it looks like it's vacant, next to your offices.
Well, our offices are demolished.
Oh, they're gone?
We're not there anymore, yes. So, that's why we're rug surfing at Hagopian. They let us know. We had to move out in July. They let us know in June. They were tearing the building down. So, Hoover Electric, unfortunately, at this point, is not slated to be demolished as part of the Gateway Marketplace project.
Okay.
So, they're working on that. I think the terms, as far as financially, what they want to sell for and what Gateway is willing to pay is they have not had a meeting of the minds, is my understanding. So that's where that's happening. But I'm certain that as this project rolls out, I don't think you're going to see Hoover there forever. I just don't see that happening with all the new retail that's going to be going in there. I can't imagine that's going to be there long.
Right.
They just haven't found a user for the corner yet. I think that's what'll determine their departure.
All right, thank you.
Well, I want to offer my thanks for your ear on the next development, because that's the whole area is a concern to Ferndale, how it's developed and how we interact with that. And you've heard our concerns. I think we passed a resolution at the last meeting that you have, and I know you've taken those concerns to the land bank and to other folks. So thanks for advocating for our interests, and we're happy to be at the table with you. All right, thanks, Tammy. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
All right, we're back to call to audience. Call to audience is another 30 minutes if we need that. 3 minutes a person. Anything you'd like to speak on? It's your turn to talk.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm double duty tonight. Again, Kelly Farah, and I'm with Citizens for a Fair Ferndale. And I'm here just to remind everyone that we are accepting nominations for the Good Neighbors Equal Strong Community Awards. And these awards celebrate the ongoing efforts of those who live, work, and attend school in Ferndale, who value the fair and equal treatment of others, and are engaged in making this happen on a daily basis. The Good Neighbor Awards program identifies and honors individuals and businesses and organizations in our community who are outstanding examples of good neighbors, people who are committed to building, preserving, maintaining, and improving the quality of life in their neighborhoods and our community. And just a few examples of the previous honorees. People who have coordinated and planned picnics, festivals, and events in the community, promoted volunteerism, created inclusive, welcoming environments in their businesses, collaborated on art projects that celebrate diversity, tutored foreign-born Americans, sheltered the homeless, creatively overcame personal challenges while striving to help others, established book club networks, spoken out against injustice in our community. Just to let you know, CFF is planning a special event in early May to present approximately 10 awards for 2013, and we want to invite everyone in our community to please help us identify those individuals or business organizations whom you think deserve this award by submitting a nomination. It's a really easy process. You can just go to fairferndale.org. There's an online nomination, really easy to fill out. And the only thing is that you can also download a nomination and mail it to us if you'd prefer. The only thing, nominations must be received by Thursday, March 7th, 2013 at midnight, or postmarked by March 7th. And you can go to our website. We also have a nice new frequently asked questions section. A lot of things. You can get a whole list of the past honorees. Anyway, that's all. I just want to encourage people to nominate those good neighbors. It's really important. It helps keep our community strong. Thank you.
And it's a cry fest. It's a good one.
It's a good one.
It's a good one.
Anyone else like to address council? Yes, that's what we will.
Sherry Wells, 315 West Troy. When the city's doing its goal setting, and we'll be doing the budget soon, one of the things, as I was watching, that's left out are the residents. And it occurred to me that there are some goals that the residents can set that can also help the city in the budget. This $287,000 is what Ferndale residents can save our city if we recycle everything that we'd be able to recycle. And then the city gets paid for the recycles. We don't have to pay for them as trash, and that's where that money comes from. That would pay for one more police officer, one more firefighter, and a full-time code enforcement officer to help us with the rats and all this other stuff that we complain about. So this is in our hands and needs to be in our bins. 30% of the stuff, when SACRA did a study, they tested a big garbage truck of everybody's garbage from each one of the communities. And they found that 30% of the stuff was cardboard and paper. So tonight is lesson 1. For paper, you can just put it in a plastic bag or a paper grocery bag. You can put the newspaper inserts. You can put paper bags, telephone directories, and those things are coming out. The new ones are, so those can go in that paper bag. Junk mail can go directly in there. And paperback books that are pretty worn out. So that would take care of paper. You can take your cardboard boxes, like your cereal boxes, and they're not that difficult to break down. Flatten them out, in they go. And paper towel rolls and other rolls can go in there as well. The big problem I see when I'm walking around Ferndale is cardboard. Cardboard can either be taped up or with twine, and the money you spend on twine you'll be saving in trash bags. It has to be about the size of your recycle bin and nothing bigger. Or you can take another box that's smaller than your recycle bin and stuff it full of cardboard. However, the pizza boxes, maybe the top, because that's not grungy, but the bottoms are usually pretty yucky, and those are human beings working on that recycling stuff, and they don't need yucky. These come off pretty easily. They're perforated now. Lesson 1. Now, one last thing. If you're updating your computer equipment, in Ferndale we have Motor City Free Geek. Google them, and they put these things back together, fix them, put in new freeware, shareware software, and then donate them to nonprofit organizations that are making other people computer literate. And anything that they can't fix and send on, they recycle properly. And they are on the SACRA website. Lesson 1.
Thank you. Why do I feel like going home and putting some stuff in my bin? It's very helpful. Thank you very much. Thanks, Sherry. That's right. We'll give that a hand. Anyone else like to address council during call to audience this evening? Yes, Dennis.
Back again. Dennis August, 1550 Spencer. These snowstorms that have been going on here, you know, as I drive around Ferndale, I see people are not abiding by that plaque on the sign. You know, like the last one, we didn't get 4 inches of snow. It wasn't far off from it. But they're just not showing the courtesy of getting off the streets. After that last mess there, okay, I had ruts in my street. I did. The plow truck couldn't get down here. Couldn't do nothing. Not the driver's fault, not the DPW's fault. People are just showing lack of respect. They're not getting off the streets. Okay? When I backed out of my driveway, I just about hit this guy. And he's got a nice, I'd say about 2011, 2012 Chevy pickup. And then I just about hit him. You know, it was a scary sight looking in my rear view and seeing how bright that red taillight got on his vehicle. Now, I lost the vehicle on the Royal Oak side of 696 last year. Now, due to a kid texting, wasn't paying attention, pulled right out in front of me, slammed me. Okay, and you know, I'm not ready to go back and lose another one because of negligence. I'm not ready to start paying for someone else's vehicle to be fixed because of negligence. Okay, I pay my taxes. I went to bat for this city for that millage increase, and I don't see things happening in the neighborhoods for the residents, the people you ask for help. I don't see it happening, okay? Police department's at a skeleton crew. They can only do so much, but with DDA, well, that DDA promoting downtown and doing things downtown, it draws away from the neighborhood. It draws those guys away from the neighborhood, okay? When there's, the one snowstorm we did have this year was over 4 inches of snow. Nobody got off the streets. Nobody abided by those signs. But what can you do when our police department's spending time downtown, because obviously that's where the happening is, okay? That's where it's at. They're downtown because they got to back up that next officer. If they've got a situation down here, they know that they got 9 Mile and Woodward, okay? They got to back up that next police officer there, so that way that one officer is safe. That takes away from our neighborhoods. Ask me to go to bat for you guys again, I might just say no. We need to change those signs around and get these people to start listening, observing, and getting off the street. Not just my street. As I drive around as a contractor, and I do get around town as a contractor, I see this all over Ferndale. Okay? As a contractor, I've been in other cities. Just because I had a permit on the house for the work that I was doing did not exempt me from parking on a street that said no parking. Now, how a contractor cannot park on the street and landscaping crews can is just totally beyond me. But I had to remove my vehicle off the street. And I challenge any one of you to grab a hold of a 200-pound trim brake and see if you want to carry that a half a block.
Not taking you up on that one, Dennis.
All right? I'd like to see some changes made on this stuff here, you know. If nothing else, no parking on the street from October to the 1st of April. That way you're covering the leaf cleaning. You know, I mean, I don't want to slide into your vehicle. I don't want to slide into your vehicle. I don't want to slide into anybody's vehicle. I lost a vehicle this year just because of somebody not paying attention. I got rear-ended 3 months later. Why? Because that other kid wasn't paying attention.
Thanks, Dennis. Anyone else would like to address council? We show and tell now. Please do. Not necessary.
Is there somebody in the city that could pay Sherry to go talk to the local businesses about recycling? Because that dumpster there in that Withington lot is really horrendous. People don't know how to recycle.
Yeah.
They're putting plastic and cardboard and stuff. She would do a good job.
She did a very nice job tonight, didn't she?
Well, anyways, this is my street drawing.
Okay.
For the Arts Festival down there that takes place in September. And I was told, I complained to DDA after this about this setup here where we had all these tents, all these exhibitors that were set up right in front of our stores.
Right.
And then I thought, well, that's just the way it is. But in the afternoon, I go out and I discover, oh, here on the 100 block and the 300 block, they all have vendors back to back. So they
You know what? We can hear you, but the folks at home probably can't, and you can't believe how many folks watch this on television. Sherry would help you if you wanted. No, she's got it. Okay, just so you're in the microphone.
Sorry.
Thanks.
But anyways, I complained to DDA about this. You know, again, they told me that there was a man in charge of this, but they thought he was really kind of in favor of having a continuous strip of everyone back to back, and it would make it so much nicer for people to just walk all the way down and all the way back. So you'd have the arts booths on one side and the business on the other. What's the point in having something like this if the businesses can't be seen? So even if they don't support us that day, they may come back. Like, I feel a lot of people miss me, didn't even know I was there. You know, like I made money, I had customers, but it could have easily been less than half of what I could have made. as a new business, it was really distressing to find myself standing there looking at the window at various times during the day with no one in my store, looking at all the people walking down the middle. So I was told that you folks would really perhaps have some say in how this is done. I was told there was some problem with the fire department needing it like this, and I don't understand how this kind of schizophrenic setup could any way benefit emergency vehicles. There's no way that...
Chief, is that a fire issue?
20-foot path, it doesn't matter where the 20-foot path is. We battle on this all the time, Your Honor.
Oh, okay.
So
I would encourage-
You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I'm going to have Michael Larry talk to her, and then maybe they can talk a little bit as he goes through the floor plan.
Well, if you can't
Excellent.
have something symmetrical that makes sense, that's easy for people, then this is my solution for next year, where you do alternating years, where you can have them back-to-back in the 200 block, so I can feel like I'm a part of this event, and let the 100 block and the 300 block suffer the misery of having booths set up in front of theirs. You know, because, I mean, if I have to look at the back end of these booths again, at their coolers and boxes and hand carts, it's no fun, and it's not fair. So
Gotcha.
There's my idea.
Thank you. And Michael will, I don't think he needs to take your, Sherry will probably want your cardboard, but. Thank you. And you did a really nice job, too. Thank you. Anyone else like to address council this evening? All right, seeing none, we'll close call to audience and move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda are items that council considers routine and we enact in one motion unless something is removed from the consent agenda. Let me read through the consent agenda this evening. Item A is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held February 11, 2013. B is the approval of additional multi-space meters, coin boxes, and miscellaneous items for the parking system funds to be allocated from the auto parking fund. C, approval of agreement with Ferndale Memorial Association for observance of Memorial Day on Monday, May 27th, 2013, with the annual Memorial Day Parade on that same day. I saw Barbara Earl here earlier. I think she's left us, but Barbara, we got your permit under control. D, approval of invoices for fire personnel to attend EMU's School of Fire Staff and Command. E, approval of amendment resolution recommending to the Michigan Liquor Control Commission approval of a new Class C liquor license issued under MCL 4361521A at 241 West 9 Mile Road as requested by 241 West 9 Mile Road LLC, doing business as the Ferndale Public House. That was formerly the Crepes restaurant. F, approval of the bills and payrolls as submitted by the city manager's office, subject to the review of the council finance committee. Council, what is your pleasure on the consent agenda this evening?
I'm having an issue with 6B because I know that there's a timing issue with the market multi-space meter change order with what we added to the agenda of 7F, which is adding 12 more. So we're purchasing 14, but at 2 different times in the agenda. So
pull that and do them at the same time?
Is it possible we can do that? Yep.
Certainly.
Thank you.
We'll pull item B. Pull anything else? Otherwise, a motion would be in order.
I'd move that we accept the consent agenda as amended.
Support.
Moved by Martin, supported by Piana. Any discussion on the consent agenda? All right, Madam Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Council members Lennon?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. The consent agenda is adopted. Moving on to the regular agenda. Item A, appointment of Heather Voss to the Civil Service Board for a term ending 12/31/18.
Yeah, I did not estimate that one well, Heather, I'm sorry.
Heather, you're a trooper for hanging in there with us. You'll probably learn a lot. Why don't you come up and at least introduce yourself while I say thank you for volunteering. You're obviously well qualified for this. Why don't you tell people a little bit about who you are and where you work?
I'm Heather Coleman-Buss. I'm the Business Services Coordinator at the Ferndale Career Center. I'm currently working with all of the businesses in the area, or I'm very open to doing that with a myriad of different things that we can offer. I'm also a presenter. I'm a recruiter and assist businesses with their sourcing as well as a career coach. So I have quite a bit of experience here in Ferndale. This is my second position at the Ferndale Career Center. Previously I was the training coordinator. So I'm really excited about the opportunity. Had a chance to kind of be in on a meeting and really enjoyed what everyone is doing here for the city. And I'm a lover of Ferndale. Our children go to school here, and I'm very excited to be part of this. So.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions of Council of Heather?
No, just thank you for your service. I appreciate you stepping out.
Very much so. Is there a motion?
I move to appoint Heather Voss to the Civil Service Board for a term ending 12/31/18.
Support.
Moved by Lennon, supported by Martin. Any further discussion? Other than just thank you again. Very much appreciated.
For the next 6 years.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Council members Martin?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That appointment is adopted. Regular agenda item B, and thanks for waiting all that time also, Heather. I bet. Regular agenda item B is the selection of an architect for the 43rd District Court and Ferndale Police renovation project. City Manager, you want to give us a brief overview of that?
Been doing more than just parking. Seems hard to believe. Our committee met on February 12th, I believe, to interview two architects for the police and court building renovation project. We did an effort to recognize all of the work that went into the previous time spent on the court and police building, really focused on the architects that were part of that first process. So we narrowed it down to two architects, and are pleased to report that by unanimous vote that we would like to pursue a contract with French & Associates, who was able to give us fixed costs versus percent, as well as was able to accommodate the contract which you see in your packet, and that is a draft, and I'm actually going to turn it over to Dan Chris to talk a little bit about the next steps as it relates to the contract, and we can go from there.
Thanks. Dan.
Yes, Your Honor. Before you also is a draft of a AIA standard form architectural contract along with general conditions, which is often utilized in the context of building construction. This particular document has been presented to both of the proposed architects by Plante Moran Caressa to get their input and confirm their willingness to work with that template document. Plante Moran Caressa has confirmed they're working on inserting the specific detail with respect to the proposed architect's name, pending approval of council on the actual selection. So the draft motion for your consideration this evening would be to authorize the city manager and myself to proceed with finalizing the contract document and approve the contract subject to the document being completed by Plante Moran Caressa.
Thank you, Dan.
Dan, haven't we used French & Associates before for other projects?
They were one of the architects that was involved in making a presentation with respect to the prior consideration of a complete city hall renovation, but I am not aware that they have done work for the city within the last 20 years.
That's where you remember them from.
Remember them being thrown around,
Yep.
yeah, okay.
Yep.
But both of the architects have experience with both police departments and court projects and construction projects.
Yeah, I would just say, we did the interview committee, it was myself, and the city manager, the city attorney, Councilman Galloway, Judge Longo, Chief Collins, Jane Marie was on that as well, and Lloyd was on that as well. And both architectural firms specialize in these sort of buildings, were eminently qualified, but frankly, the price, the price and the quality of their work of French was excellent, and they gave us confidence that they would be able to give us a first-rate project within the budget that we already have, and so excited to recommend to you French and Associates.
So may I ask, did they then, if both firms were qualified, get it because it was the low bid, or because the other vendor
Yes.
would not go to a fixed cost versus a percent, and you were trying to avoid overruns?
They were the low bid, and significantly so.
Okay. Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
sorry. For
Of
the
course, no, of course.
$97,500 bid, how does that compare to what you forecasted in the project budget for this work? Are you under, in? I mean, how's it? Under.
Yeah.
It is under?
Under budget. Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Dan asked them.
Huh?
Dan asked them.
Dan asked your
Just
question.
kidding.
All right. A motion would be
No,
in
that's
order
good.
then.
I move to approve the city manager and city attorney to negotiate a contract with French and Associates for the renovation of the police and 43rd District Court building for a fixed fee of $97,500 from account number, and I'm not going to repeat that, and to authorize the city manager to execute the contract.
Support.
Moved by Piana, supported by Martin. Any further discussion or questions on this item? Madam Clerk?
Council members Piana?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That item is adopted. Moving on to item C, consideration of ordinance number 1138, amending Chapter 3 of the Alcoholic Beverages, Article 1, in general, Section 3 through 4, consumption or possession of alcoholic beverages on public highways, streets, and public places. Dan, or April, are you introducing that?
We're going to tag team.
You're going to tag team that one, all right.
This is in response to the need to address the ordinance as it relates to some of our public buildings, in particular the library. I know there's a few more pieces in here that Dan's going to touch on, but the library over the last couple of years has done some fundraisers, tasteful, if you will, that have had alcohol, such as wine and roses, I believe is what they call that. And at this point, we've been passing a resolution of support for that, but it's not jiving, if you will, with our ordinance. I know that we had conversations previously about, how does this affect the Kulik Center, all the different public places that we have, but this particular adjustment to the ordinance only deals with the library. We haven't gone so far as to offer the same thing for the Kulik Center, just because I don't think that.
Yeah, if I could just add a little bit to that. This draft will address allowing the consumption of alcohol on public property where there is a lease agreement between the city and a public entity, such as the library, subject to approval by the Liquor Control Commission. So it would allow expressly for that, for them to be able to get a one-day license. It does also preserve the authority of council to, by resolution, address issues as it relates to hours, should that come to be a case. It doesn't expressly preclude the city from entering into a lease with some other governmental entity for certain other city property if it decides to enter into a lease of that nature. The ordinance amendment also would allow for alcohol to be allowed in connection with a city-approved special event involving a nonprofit applicant, where there has also been approval by of a liquor license with the Michigan Liquor Control Commission. So it addresses not only a lease scenario from the city to a governmental entity, but also a city-approved special event on public property.
That sums it up.
Well, let me clarify. So the way I read it, and I'm probably missing one clause or another, that it says it's by a city-approved special event or where a nonprofit applicant properly registered with the state and active status is issued a liquor license by the Michigan Liquor Control Commission. And then it goes on to talk about a block party, city-approved special event or nonprofit applicants. This is not saying that any service of alcohol on a public property has to come through council for approval, right? Or the way I read this, a nonprofit can go ahead and do this at the library, for example, without us blessing it.
Yes, in connection where the
With the liquor license and liability and everything else.
That's right. It would actually, no. It's, the lease exists between the city of Ferndale and the library. There's a lease regarding that building.
Yeah.
So the library could have an event that would allow for some type of serving of alcoholic beverages and in the library building with the caveat that they obtain a LCC one-day license.
And no council approval?
No express council approval. To the event there is a subsequent issue that arose that came to the council's attention, council can pass a resolution as it relates to the scope of hours for such an event.
Sure. But in that process, I'm sorry, who's responsible for validating the nonprofit has the liquor control license approval and the proper insurance and everything else? Is that incumbent on the library, or do we, as the owners leasing to the library, somehow have a hand?
Great question.
It would really be incumbent on that type of documentation being presented to the city, just for confirmation. Otherwise, it subjects itself to enforcement, because otherwise, alcohol in public places is not allowed.
But it doesn't require them to provide it ahead of time, or do we only through an act of enforcement have
really,
to
this was brought as a concern, you recall, that the library wished to have an event of this nature and to eliminate council oversight with respect to certain events at the library. To the extent that council wishes to maintain a level of oversight in that process, that could be addressed, but it would have to be modified in the draft before you this evening, if you wish to see every type of such an application.
Right. So I noticed we have another liquor license ordinance on our agenda tonight, and there's some Michigan liquor license control changes where the city has less authority to have a liquor license come to the council for review. I know that's on transfer of liquor license, but do any of those changes, because I know there were a lot of changes at the liquor board control this in 2012. So does any of that apply to the scenario here?
For the next ordinance, yes. The LCC has modified its regulations.
Okay, so that doesn't impact any of their decision-making here whatsoever?
Not for this particular council agenda item.
Okay.
But Dan, let me understand something. The issue with us kind of almost not regularly, but more often than once or twice, giving the library permission to serve alcohol was that our ordinance forbid it, and so we were really violating our ordinance.
You were passing a resolution associated with that, but it didn't. It needed to be addressed because the language of the ordinance does not allow for alcohol in public places or public property.
So with
the exception right now of the one carve out that council previously addressed, which regarded a lease for the curling club. The curling club on that public is set forth in the ordinance.
Yes.
So it was modeled on a change similar to that, where there is a lease between the library and the city for that public building.
Right.
That was one of the changes. The other change was as it relates to city-approved special events. So there's two changes in this agenda item.
And whether or not we wanted to see each individual request from the library, whether we did or whether we didn't, we would still
yes.
It would still behoove us to pass this kind of
if you wish to
language.
continue to allow that type of utilization by the library, then there should be an ordinance adjustment. Now, if you wish to have oversight, that's fine, and you can address it. I'll come up with better language to address that concern.
We need to do this anyway, but we may want to
if you
also
want oversight, we'll
keep oversight of it.
That's correct.
To limit or, to draw, just not to limit, but to oversee the amount of times it happens and
Yeah, and frankly, in some detail, I think the library wasn't aware of that requirement, so it was often missing council agenda deadlines, and there was a rush. So it really should be addressed. If council wishes oversight, adjust the ordinance to allow for the oversight that you wish to have, but allow them, subject to what any type of rules or regulations that you want, to make the proper application.
So that's what I think is the real question, because we've allowed them to do it, and we've expressed a willingness to allow them to do it. And this will allow us to do that without violating our own ordinances. But the question becomes, do we still want them to come to council, or do we want to just allow them to do that on their own?
Well, how many times have we allowed them to have, was it just twice so far?
They're coming back in 3, I think, and they're coming back in March for.
Right. Well, I think the real policy question here, I mean, is not should they come to council or not, is should we allow them to continue to have alcohol in the library as a way to raise revenue? I think that's their true interest is fundraising to raise revenue for important programs, and they're going to be doing that through events. But this ordinance also applies to nonprofits. So how many nonprofits do we have in Ferndale? I mean, technically, you could be having events, fundraiser events there that's serving alcohol pretty consistently. And I think that's the policy discussion that we need to have because we don't know what their projections are in terms of raising revenue through these events. Even though their interest is, raising revenue for their own self, there is this other revenue source that's going to come in through outside sources.
And I think the piece that either I'm missing or I'm not missing, I don't know, is that by coming to council, there was a process where we checked to make sure they got everything they needed and the liabilities and everything in place, so we were comfortable that occurred. And it goes back to my question, if it's incumbent on the city to make sure that happens, how will we know till it's not the day of the event and suddenly we have an enforcement issue the night of a party, right? Which probably couldn't have happened if we'd had the checks in place,
Well, you could follow the model for the special event process right now, but it still goes to the issue of modifying the ordinance to allow such use, whether it's a special event model on public property or within the framework of a public building utilized by a governmental entity at the library. Either scenario, the ordinance should be addressed with the oversight or without.
Sure. And which piece of the ordinance excludes the Kulik Centers at the $25,000 number?
Not the Kulik Center.
No, I know it's excluded.
No, it's not expressly excluded.
But
not expressly. It would just, there would have to be a lease of that property. And so any type of lease of the property would have to come back to council.
That's what it excludes. That's what it's not a lease. It's not they don't have a lease with the city.
Okay.
I just wanted to make it clear that this
yeah.
ordinance does not allow for. And I think from a city standpoint, it was intended for them, the library, to have to come to city council. I think I might have miscommunicated that to Dan.
Okay.
I think that would be the best way to make sure that they have all their paperwork in, that we need to know that.
I think that's where I would be most comfortable, is if this expressly said that we modify our ordinance to allow it, but they still need to come back.
I don't mind them doing it. I just think there's a level of risk management or liability that we should be sensitive to. I'm not worried about them throwing a party with alcohol every weekend. I just don't think that would happen.
Well, then I suggest council table this
Table
item
this
to the
and
next
you've heard
council meeting, and I'll bring it back with the general framework of timelines set forth for the special event review process. And then I'll circulate it this week to the ordinance committee members. They can provide feedback, and we'll have it back for your consideration at the next council meeting.
Let's do that.
I'd feel better with that.
All right, so let's table that.
So-
Does that require a vote, or?
No.
I have one more question.
Sure.
So we've talked now about the library through the library lens, but does any nonprofit who submits an application to have liquor there then have to come to council too?
If they want, if it was proposed to be utilizing public property, they would.
Okay.
Right.
So we could be having more coming through council for approval, depending on how this opens up their fundraising
If they use
revenue.
public property.
If they use public
Yeah,
property.
it's the public property
Well,
component.
I work at a nonprofit. We could rent space and hold a fundraiser and bring alcohol. and get, if we had a Michigan liquors license? That's what I'm just trying to figure out.
If the city decided to
Lease
City Hall, I mean.
to them.
it-
Okay,
it-
I
Only
get
on
it.
public property.
I get it now. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Well, it just says nonprofits. You
You're
know,
right.
it's, you can interpret that many ways, as I was. So thank you for clarifying. So it's library only.
Yes.
Even though it says nonprofits.
Well,
like he said, not
not only libraries,
Try
it's
to
also
lease-
for special events where they want to have
Yes,
alcohol
right.
on streets.
We're not going to do that.
So that is public place, public streets, and public buildings is what that prohibition currently provides for.
All right, we'll table that item until the next meeting with the directions we've given you to revise that. Then we'll move on to,
We need a motion to that effect.
we need a motion to table? Can I have a motion to table?
I would move that we table the ordinance 1138 changes to the next meeting, so we can make appropriate changes.
I support.
Moved by Martin, supported by Piana. Any other discussion? We need a roll call vote, Madam Clerk? Or-
Not necessarily.
No, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Moving on to the next item, item D, consideration of ordinance number 1139, amending the same, Chapter 3 alcoholic beverages, Article 2 vendors for consumption on premises, Section 3 through 17 of our Code of Ordinances.
Mayor, if I could give a brief introduction
Yeah.
on this item. In connection with applications for transfers of liquor license establishments within the city of Ferndale and also from outside of Ferndale into the city of Ferndale, there is currently a liquor review committee, and that committee has evaluated the current policy with respect to applications for such transfer. In connection with that also, there has been changes to the Michigan Liquor Control Commission regulations with respect to what they require from the standpoint of local legislative review and recommendation for such transfer. And before you is a proposal that the Liquor Review Committee has evaluated with respect to a possible broadening of the city's ordinance as it relates to the city's independent authority to supplement the Michigan Liquor Control Commission in the area of alcohol establishments within the city of Ferndale, to provide a mechanism for the city council to still weigh in on applications for new Class C licenses or any transfers of licensed establishments from either outside of the city boundaries or within the city to be subject to regulation and review by council. The draft of the ordinance has been considered by the review committee. Council member Galloway, who's on that committee, suggested that it come forward to council for its input with respect to the draft. I'm not sure at the time he was aware that he wasn't going to be here at this meeting.
Right.
This is one component of the Liquor Review Committee's recommendation. There was also two principal additional suggestions that the committee has forwarded to the Plan Commission with respect to possible zoning ordinance changes, which are still being studied and reviewed by the Planning Commission, I think at its next meeting. And so it's not for council's consideration at this time. So I'm certainly happy to go into the detail of the proposed ordinance changes. I did speak with Christina prior to the meeting, and she had certain comments that comments and questions with respect to the draft that she and I have not had an opportunity yet to discuss and go through. This may also be an ordinance that, since it's likely that the DDA has some comments and input that they want to provide, that council may not want to take action on this agenda item this evening. But certainly if there's questions or comments specifically with respect to the draft, I'd be happy to answer them.
So let me ask you, because I know that at the Michigan Liquor Control Commission, they did make changes that eliminated our ability to influence these transfers. How is it, being a non-lawyer, how is it that we're able to I don't want to say circumvent that.
Because they do not preempt the area of regulation with respect to licensed establishments. There already is a mechanism for some local authority. And this is a separate regulatory ordinance that allows, based on the city's home rule authority expressed by state law, to weigh in on a matter of important local consequence to the city's citizens of Ferndale. So that's what this draft is. It doesn't eliminate the Liquor Control Commission's regulations. It simply provides an additional regulation that the city of Ferndale thinks is important, should it decide to adopt such an ordinance with respect to licensed establishments within its community.
Council have comments?
Does this typically, should this go through the ordinance committee? The review of the changes? Because what I heard from you say is that perhaps there needs to be further discussion with the DDA about what this really, how this impacts the process for an applicant to submit, or how they're processed through the city, as well as how that relates to the state laws that have been somewhat relaxed.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's as much of a concern regarding the application process for this ordinance amendment, but there are questions and concerns the DDA has raised that I haven't yet had a chance to vet through with her.
Okay.
With the executive.
So my suggestion would be that we table it, and I think it would also be appropriate for Councilman Galloway to be here, who has weighed in on it and has some thoughts on this as well. So if council was amenable, a motion would be in order.
I'll move that we table ordinance 1139, liquor license transfer review, until such time that Mr. Christ has had an opportunity to review it with constituencies, and Councilman Galloway can be here.
Thank you. Is there support? Okay. Moved by Martin, supported by Lennon. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. Let's move on to our last agenda item. No, I'm sorry, we added another one. But agenda item 7E, which is consideration to set a public hearing on March 25th, 2013, for liquor license renewals that are in non-compliance. This is an annual thing that we do each year. This isn't the public hearing. We just need to set the public hearing, right, for any liquor licenses that are not in compliance by March 1st, I believe is the date that they have to be in compliance by, if I understood that correct. They're not.
They're actually due on the 28th of February,
28th,
but there will
okay.
be a treasurer's report that's generated on March 1st.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of pay on the 28th, so it'll narrow the list if March 1st is used as the
well,
date.
Your Honor, when Mr. Chris notifies the license holders that they are delinquent and they are being called to the public hearing, they will often make their payment then. So we will give you an updated list at the council table that night, and typically it is even smaller.
And my understanding is that even now, there's just 2 establishments, and they're not technically
delinquent on water.
They're delinquent on water.
Right,
Not
and again,
necessarily
taxes are not due
taxes
until the end of the month, so no one is technically delinquent at this point.
Yep.
I move to receive the report and make it a matter of record, and also direct that the public hearing be scheduled for Monday, March 25th, 2013 at 7:30 p.m. regarding the non-renewal of Class C liquor licenses, and that the city attorney's office prepare and have served appropriate legal notice of the scheduled hearing to any establishments that are in question and or those establishments that are delinquent in paying taxes that are due on February 28th, 2013, according to the Assistant City Manager, Finance Director, Treasurer's Report, as of noon on Friday, March 1st, 2013. Mouthful.
Support.
Moved by Piana, supported by Lennon. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Councilmembers Martin?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That item is adopted. And now the item that we added, item 7F, which is the additional multi-space meters. This correlates to the consent agenda item, which was 2 units, but I believe this is a proposal for 12 additional units.
Yeah, so there's 2 separate resolutions for a reason. The first one was the original request that I thought we needed, that already ordered 2 more, and then more coin boxes that we needed, as well as some other work orders throughout the process that we had to readjust. I think that, what were they, ballards, or is that what they're called? Yeah, Bullards, thank you. So it was meant to really kind of be an emergency purchase, if you will. So then, during the process between this going into council, we were able to vet and know that we needed 12 more. So there are 2 separate resolutions, but it will be for a total of 14 multi-space meters with 2 separate. One has an invoice attached to it, the other one has the proposal attached to it.
Okay, so does the 6B from the consent agenda, does that include the 5% discount on the purchase as well as the?
I believe that all of them were coming at 5%, correct?
Right. Okay.
We'll double check.
Is there a way, oh, because you already purchased them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
But
okay.
They've been helping us out, so
Yeah, I
we'll
know.
get it.
So, okay. And then I don't see an expedited $500 fee on the 6B contract, so was that expedited too?
You know what it was?
I don't see it here on.
I added that later. Yep, I added it that Thursday, so I need to include that, please. Thank you for asking that question.
So, so that would be,
just with the other 2.
So the 24,532 would include an expedited fee of
I'll need to
$1,000
add
more?
$1,000 to that for the 2 expedited.
Okay.
So it'll have to be a total of 25.
But the dollar amount isn't in the
No, it
proposal?
should be okay.
Not yet. See if it's parking.
Okay.
So we need to take both of them up, right?
Yes, please.
All right, I would move that we approve the additional multi-space meters, coin boxes, miscellaneous items, and expedited fees for the parking system, and request that funds be allocated from the Auto Parking Fund 585-000-977, and that is for 6B.
Is that it?
That's it?
Is that just for 6B?
Support.
I thought we had to do them separately. I'm sorry.
Oh, yep.
Moved by Martin, supported by Lennon.
I do have one comment. I guess I've heard from folks that, I know this implementation hasn't gone as planned, but I get the impression that that there is an opportunity out there to rescind the implementation of these meters and start over. And I was wondering if you can comment on the cost and timing of that, because I don't think that's the policy direction where City Council would like to go on pulling back the whole system because it's not working well, rather than trying to figure out how to make it work better. So I just wanted to make sure that we were very clear about that, because we are purchasing more to address the current issues on hand, and that we're not going to go back to the coin meters, as some have suggested. But I think it was important to call that out and address that, and that there is an additional cost factor of rolling back and going back to what we had.
Right.
So I guess I just wanted to make that point, because we're about to purchase 14 more.
Yeah, no, that is correct.
So, okay.
However, we are going to redo implementation when we start back up again on how we roll it out, just to
Yes.
clarify.
Yes, and making sure that council is completely aware of what that plan is.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would just add, I mean, yeah, we're not, I don't know where we put the old meters, they're probably in a junkyard somewhere, but we're not going back and putting old meters in. We're committed to this system, but we're committed to getting it right. And we won't launch it until we are confident that we've got the equipment and the capacity to do it right, but it's going to be this system. And so,
Right.
It's here to stay.
Right.
I don't think we still have the old meters. Are they gone yet?
I don't know, it might be-
Not
probably
yet?
on Craigslist.
They are not secure.
Right.
As we've discovered.
They're not secure in South Oakland.
Blind.
It would be a considerable amount of money to reinstall.
Oh, yeah.
Any further questions or comments on this item? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmembers Piana,
Yes.
Lennon.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Mayor Coulter.
Yes, thank you. That item is adopted. Did that cover all of them, or do we
No,
have to do it
that just
twice?
covered 6B.
So now we have to do
That's all
7F,
in front of us.
right?
Yep.
So a motion would be in order for 7F, which is the additional 12.
I move to approve the additional 12 multi-space meters for the parking system and request that funds be allocated from the Auto Parking Fund 585-000-00977.
Is there support? I'm sorry, is there support?
I support.
Oh, okay. Moved by Lennon, supported by Piana. Any discussion on that item? If not, Madam Clerk?
Councilmembers Lennon?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
It is.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That item is adopted. That concludes our regular agenda. Next item is call to council. I see our police chief in the back. Anything for the good of the community, chief? Nothing this evening. All right. Derek Delacorte, anything from community and economic development? All right. Christina, anything further from the DDA this evening? All right. Lloyd, anything from DPW? No, just that we got a snowstorm coming tomorrow, right? So stay off the street if it's 4 inches or more. Pardon me?
Please keep those cars out of the road.
Please keep your cars off the road if it's 4 inches or more, and they're anticipating that it's going to be more than 4, correct? If they can be believed, that's correct. Fire Chief Sullivan, anything? Nothing. Joe, anything from your neck of the wood? Nothing this evening. All right. Sherilyn, anything from the clerk's office?
I hate to buck the trend. Nothing, Your Honor.
All right. City Manager, anything additional?
I'm a follower, no.
Oh, wow. Dear Chris?
I have nothing, Your
Honor.
I know who's going to break it.
Because it's 10 to 10. Everybody's trying to... Councilman Martin, break the spell.
I have nothing.
Wow. Councilman Lennon.
I want to thank the Ferndale Fire Department. They know why Saturday. Thank you. That's all.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem, Piana.
Yes, of course, I'll break the spell. Save the date for Thursday, April 17th for the next Woodward Alternative Analysis Outreach Meeting. There will be more to come, but time and date or time and location are still being worked out, but I have a feeling it's going to be the Ferndale Public Library, but just wanted to save the date.
All right.
More to come.
Cool. And I just have one save the date, which is May 11th, Saturday, May 11th, clean the Ferndale up. We did it last year. It was a huge success. We had over 100 volunteers. I'd like to even have more than that this year. So mark your calendars, Saturday, May 11th. And with that, our council meeting is adjourned.